guys, welcome to my Ocean One channel. I was home just in time to start the conference call. I rolled in the garage at literally 4:59, ran in the house, and started listening to the call. And I've had time to listen to the call now 2 times. Now on the way home, I had my daughter read to me the press release. And as she read me that press release, I was thinking, tomorrow is probably going to be an ugly day for Fisker. Now, after I've sat here and listened to the call 2 times and absorbed my thoughts, it's not as bad as I originally thought. It's not good, but it's not as bad as I originally thought. And I'm going to break this video up into basically 4 segments. The first segment will be the bad. I'm just going to get the bad right out of the way. And then I'm going to move into the good. Then I'm going to move into the surprises. And then I will give you my final thoughts. The bad. Let's just get it out of the way. Margins were pretty bad. There's no getting around that. We were negative 35% for margins. So being asset light currently is not working too well in our favor. There's probably a whole host of mix for that, but right now I'm just trying to get the big things out of the way for people that may not have had time to listen to the call and provide some insights there. Now, another big negative was Fisker's going to have to include a substantial doubt or ongoing concern. And this basically means that they have less cash than they need for a year. So Fisker is going to have to raise cash, and normally that wouldn't be too big of a problem, but the share price is so low. Or they're going to have to get a potential partner. So Fisker is going to have that hanging over their head until that is solved, or they can show positive margins. Another big negative that I was very disappointed with was they are delaying the 10K. And they're expecting to file that on March the 15th, and that's through the extension period. And I was not happy about that at all. That's 2 in a row, and I'm very disappointed in that. And then the other thing, and we knew this was coming, we just didn't know how much. I had estimated the outstanding shares to be roughly about $550 million. Turns out, it looks like, according to Gita, it was 589 and in change. So let's just round that up to 590. And probably not done with that particular note holder. But that's the outstanding share count. So when you take those things and you put them together, those are some pretty big negatives hanging over Fisker stock. So I wanted to just go ahead and get those out of the way at the very beginning. And now we'll look at the positives. Okay, what were the goods? Or what was good? The goods, what was good? I had estimated deliveries at 3,792. And boy, was I ever close. Fisker reported 3,818. So you know what? Barely missed it at all. Just missed it by a handful. And another thing, and I got several things to say here in the good. Another thing is I was tickled to death that Fisker actually used my question from the Say platform that I had submitted. And I meant to copy and paste that so I could read that exactly to you. Give me just a minute and I will find that. Okay, the power of editing, just press pause. So I brought it up here. And I'm going to paraphrase because I ended up having to shorten it for the characters on the Say platform. You're only allowed 280. And so I had asked the question, Fisker has consistently missed its own target / guidance. Missing the 10Q had set off a cascading event with the note holder, and now we have an out of compliance letter from the New York Stock Exchange, all stemming from Fisker's own mismanagement. Now they left out that part, they left out the Fisker's own mismanagement, but that's true, and I had that in there. And then they did say the rest of it, what concrete steps are being taken to regain trust from shareholders. And, you know, they basically went through what they'd already said, you know, transition into dealers, cutting back here, and looking at OEM partners. So I was very tickled that they read my question, because my question was very straightforward. And I can't take credit totally for the question. That was my question. But StockTwits played a huge role in helping me edit that and fine-tune it, and I appreciate that support. So I enjoyed that part, that they read that, because to me, that speaks volume, that Fisker is recognizing their mistakes, they're owning their mistakes. So actually answering my question was a huge positive for me. Okay, another positive was that we had been working with several OEMs, and now we're down to just one, and that one may provide a potential investment. If they provide a potential investment, and that turns out, you know, to be a large investment, let's just say with a B, you know, $1 billion, I think that could set the Fisker stock on fire. Now, if that doesn't happen, you know, then that could prove to be just the opposite. Who that manufacturing partner could be, I have no idea. I mean, I can guess, but honestly, I simply don't know. You know, you look for an OEM that needs an electric pickup. For me, Honda does come to mind, because, you know, right now they don't have one, and they've been borrowing GM's platform for their new SUV. You know, it's basically the same thing as a Chevy. So Honda did come to mind, but don't read anything into that. That doesn't mean a thing. That's just a guess off the top of my head. Another positive, and of course this would be to, you know, save cash, is Fisker is cutting roughly 15% of their workforce. I don't think anybody should be surprised by that as we're moving to the dealer network. So I do consider that a positive, and I don't consider that a surprise at all. Now I want to read this, because this next part gets just a little bit confusing, and it took me a few minutes to get my brain wrapped around it. And I want to read from the press release. Fisker reports preliminary Q4 2023 total revenue of $200.1 million, an increase of $128.3 million from Q3 2023. Both full year 2023 total revenue, which was $272.9 million, and the fourth quarter total revenue excludes $44.6 million of deferred revenue that will be recognized in future periods. Now, I have to say, it took me a few minutes to get my brain wrapped around that. So I'm going to read my next paragraph that I've typed out here, and then I will explain it if I think I need to. Sorry about this, I got a cramp in my leg. Using 200 million and the 3,818 units that we reported delivered, that comes out to an ASP, an average sale price. Okay, ASP is average sale price. That comes out to 52,300. And my first thought was, we're screwed. If that is our average selling price, something is horrifically wrong. And because I had used, I had used an ASP between 59 and 62. I thought that's probably where we would most likely fall. And when you put in the 44 million that's being left out, now that's deferred revenue. So we actually had that revenue, but it's not going on the books. And Fisker explained that because we don't have certain features active. It's mostly the ADAS system, the advanced driver assistance systems that are being left out right now that are not active. Heck, they're not active in my Ocean One. So Fisker's leaving those out. So if you include that 44 million, it doesn't look nearly as bad as it did when my daughter was reading this to me in the car, because that brings our ASP up to almost exactly $64,000. So I had estimated our revenue to be between 225 to 235 million, with 232 million being the sweet spot. I'd said that in my previous video if you have watched that. Now, what I hadn't accounted for was the deferred revenue of $44 million. If you include that, that would have brought our Q4 revenue up to $244 million. Now, that revenue will be recognized at a later date, but I hadn't accounted for that being left out. So when you read that headline, you know, 200 million, that makes our average sale price look much dramatically lower than it actually is. So, you know, it's almost, it's an accurate headline, but it's almost a misleading headline until you get your brain wrapped around it and absorb that. So that was big news for me. Fisker gave us some clues what, you know, our selling price, Fisker's selling price is going to be after you account for the dealer network and import duties and things like that. And Gita said that that was going to be $56,000 to $62,000. So, you know, I consider that pretty good. That's probably going to work well for us. Now, the next big positive was David King. And he mentioned 2.0 being rolled out, and, you know, we have started seeing some of that online. I've personally not gotten it yet, but I did hear a rumor, and it's just that, it's just a rumor, so don't read much into it, that everybody would be offered 2.0 by the end of next week. Now, whether that happens or not, honestly, I have no idea, but I did hear that, so I'm going to say that, but don't read too much into it. Now, David King talked, and he said the strategy is to have a future-proof hardware where we can introduce, you know, new features throughout the life of the car, and a software roadmap where, you know, we're looking at least 3 months ahead. And David said that he had been driving an Ocean with a early release of 2.0, and he said he was very, very happy with that. So he also said that it fixed some irritating issues. Now, the only irritating issue that I currently have in my Ocean is if it's dark and foggy, or if it's dark and rainy. I will get a warning, you know, the front camera has been disabled, or let's see, what's the other one? I'm trying to think of it. Oh yeah, the emergency braking is not available, and that will beep, and that's pretty irritating if, you know, if you're driving under those conditions. Really, that's the only conditions that I get that consistently. And then he goes on to say, you know, that 2.1 will be released in March, and that includes Alexa. 2.2 will be released in April. That's mostly memory seats. And then the big one that I'm really looking forward to is 3.0, and that will be the one that will activate the ADAS system. So that, for me, that's the one I want, and that's the one that should start bringing in the deferred revenue that I was talking about just a few minutes ago. So these are the positives, and I consider them, you know, very good positives. We just had some very big negatives mixed in there as well. All right, we'll move on now. What were the surprises? Now, for me, reading between the lines, the big surprise for me was that we had narrowed it down to one OEM. So, to me, that we're down to one. That seems very, very high odds that it's a go. Doesn't mean it's a go. It just means that the odds are very high that it's a go. Just the fact that they were able to say that it was down to one. Now, another thing that I think they are doing, reading between the lines, is using this OEM as leverage on Foxconn. That may or may not be true. I kind of got that impression when Henrik was talking about concentrating on just one. And he also said that he didn't consider Foxconn to be an OEM. So I kind of see that as a negotiating tool with Foxconn. But I think at this stage, I think it's going to be very beneficial for Fisker to pick up, you know, an OEM partner, especially if they will open up their pockets and, you know, just make an investment in Fisker. I think if that happens, that'd be very good for Fisker, because basically it would mean we are here to stay. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. I'll come back to that. By the end of this quarter, it's expected that we'll have around 50 dealers. I found that to be a surprise. Seems like we're moving along, you know, if that pans out. And I look forward to that, getting all these dealers online, because one thing that Fisker has been lacking is marketing. And if Fisker is selling these Oceans, basically, as soon as they come in, we give it to a dealer and we get paid. That's going to help our margins tremendously. Okay, let's end with my overall thoughts. For me, this is clearly a rough patch for Fisker for sure. Margins being, negative 35%, that's a tough pill to swallow, because basically that's 2 quarters in a row that we've had negative gross margins. And if you go back not too long ago, Gita and Henrik are both saying, potentially positive gross margins, and we're pretty far off from that. But I think this is mostly due to the Odessa screw up. We screwed up, and I think we're paying the price for it now. So hopefully, going to the dealers will rectify this situation very quickly. Now, we just need to get through this, this transition phase, and it's more of a pivot than it is a transition phase. We are clearly transitioning, but we did a very big pivot moving to the dealer. So, we have to get through this. Now, Henrik seemed to provide his own best hint when he was ending the call. And, at first I thought it was strange to end the call, and then I kind of found the humor in it, and then I kind of thought that it was probably a hint. He'd never ended that way before. He ended by saying, "We'll be back." And when he said that, all I could think of was the Terminator, when he looks through the counter and he says, "I'll be back." And then, the next thing he does is he's running a truck through the building. So, maybe Henrik is providing us a hint there, that the OEM deal is, it's going to go through, and, that's going to be the drive the truck through the shorts moments. I don't know. I kind of picked up on that, and maybe not. Who knows? As I said in my previous video, Fisker has to execute. If Fisker doesn't execute, this won't work out. I mean, it's that simple. Any business that doesn't execute, write them off the list, and it's not going to work. But we have a great product, and that product is only getting better. And one thing that I noticed in this call is it seemed to me that Fisker was very humble. And just the fact that they read my question, because my question was very direct, it was very pointed, I didn't think they'd touch it, but they did. So to me, that speaks volumes that Fisker is saying, yes, we have screwed up, and this is what we're going to do to fix it. Now, I said I would come back to something before I ended, and I'm going to. I was talking about the large investment from the OEM partner. And, if that were to have $1 billion attached to it, I don't know. I have no idea. You guys know as much as I do, in certain things. I'm just trying to read my insights here. So if an OEM partner could come in and open up their pockets with, let's say, $1 billion and convince the market that we are here to stay, I think that would rocket the share price. May not rocket that day, may not rocket that week. But all Fisker needs to do is convince the market that we are here to stay. Because right now, I don't think anybody with half a brain cell would look at Fisker and say, we're not valued at bankruptcy. I think we are. I think the market has us valued at bankruptcy. Is that fair or not fair? I don't know. The street can decide that. You can decide that. I can decide that. I have never believed that we're going to go bankrupt. Now, maybe we would. There's no promises in the market. Nobody knows. But all Fisker has to do is convince the market that Fisker will survive. And if they do that, however they do that, whether that's raising money, executing well, getting an OEM partner, that opens up their pocketbook, maybe with $1 billion attached to it, whatever it is, I think that's when you will see a dramatic reevaluation in the stock price. But we have to get through this transition period first. All right, guys, those are my thoughts. Of course, I'm not going to speak on everything. That this is something that I wouldn't even try to do. I might make other videos about particular areas or something like that, but this video was really mostly requested through StockTwits, that I used to write up all of my thoughts and do bullet points, and I would post it, and StockTwits is so character limited that, they felt that this would be a better platform to do that. So those are my thoughts. I hope you found it beneficial. And if you are enjoying my content, just please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm just trying to grow my channel and get accurate information out about Fisker, the company, and Fisker Ocean, the product. All right, guys, thanks a lot. And until next time.